Welcome to Living in the Contrast with me, your host, Liz Santiago. Before we begin today's episode, I want to start with a gentle note that I am going to be exploring grief and emotionally charged subjects surrounding the death of a loved one. So please only listen when you are in a space that feels safe to receive this kind of conversation, as well as the emotions that may arise with it. A week and a half ago, I woke up to a call that changed my life. At 6:54 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, I woke up to a call from my mom. She had found my grandmother, my Lela, passed away sometime in the early morning hours. And for an hour, I sat there, unable to cry, unable to feel, unable to move. I was so numb. It almost didn't feel real in those first moments. And part of me wanted to move, to do things to avoid. I found myself starting to scroll and then going back to, no, but I need to feel this thing. But I couldn't really get up. I couldn't really do anything purposeful. So for an hour, I sat in my bed thinking, replaying the call, asking myself if I had dreamt the call. And eventually I realized that sitting there was going to drive me mad, because I then just kept cycling these same thoughts, worrying that she felt alone, wondering if I had done enough. And eventually I decided to find purpose in the pain that I was feeling, in the sadness. I knew my mom needed me, and I also needed another moment with my Lela while they waited for the funeral home to come and get her body. She was still at her apartment at this point, approaching the door to her apartment, and a young officer was just standing there, keeping watch. And as I walked toward him, he just gently bowed his head towards me, an acknowledgement without words. His eyes conveyed a kind of knowing, of sadness and understanding between strangers. And I think that grief is one of those things that we all experience. It's part of the human experience. And so processing such a enormous emotional point of life, we need people. We need sometimes just acknowledgement. And as I walked inside and I found her on the floor, I saw that she had a sheet covering her body. I couldn't see her. I really just saw her outline, but I knew she was there. And in some symbolic way, that white sheet was reminding me I wasn't going to be able to see her again after this. My mom was there, and all I wanted to do in that moment, even with everybody there, was sit on the floor and hold my grandmother's hand one more time. And it was strange feeling myself holding her that way, especially in front of other people. It was weird displaying my grief and the ways I was processing everything in that moment with those people around me. To be seen in my grief was something I really haven't experienced before. And when I couldn't find the emotional response I thought would come, when tears just wouldn't come to the surface, I grasped at any means I could to feel close to her, to feel proximity. So I held her hand to feel close to her one more time. And I couldn't see her face, and I don't think I really needed to in that moment. I just needed something symbolic of my connection with her, because I knew that there was no longer going to be that physical, visual connection. I would have to rely on feeling from now on. In that moment, I couldn't help her, and she couldn't help me. There was nothing left to do. So I just sat there, present with her body. I remember sitting on the floor and just closing my eyes as I held her hand, knowing that her body was lifeless, but also reaching for her in my mind. And I found her voice there. And I found it in many days since that day. Some days I've worried about losing that connection with her, losing her face in my mind, losing her voice, losing her rituals, the little pieces of her that I suddenly realize I don't ever want to forget. But life demanded movement, even when I was scared to go on. And as days went on, I poured myself into helping my mother. We were really only given 2 weeks to clear out her apartment. We had a funeral to plan, family to call, arrangements to make, appointments to cancel. And all the while we were expected to somehow grieve through this. Some days I've felt exhausted. Some days I felt quiet. Some days I feel peace in my heart. At 86 years old, her passing has brought a lot of mixed feelings. There is a level of peace in knowing that she's not suffering anymore. She's not in any pain. And there's a gratitude that she was able to live such a full life. She traveled so many times. She laughed. She lived a good, long, healthy life. And there's also gratitude that my children got to know their great-grandmother, because not everybody gets that opportunity. Not everybody gets those moments. So the time we had, we were very blessed to have her for 86 years. And maybe I didn't get her for 86 years, but this world did. And that's something that I want to celebrate and that I felt called to celebrate. Now, all the while, I felt all of these things: gratitude, love, great memories. Those feelings sat beside another feeling, a feeling that only grief leaves. It's the emptiness that absence leaves inside of us. My human part wants to cry and scream at her absence. It wants my grandmother to be here physically, just one more day, one more conversation, one more phone call. But the bigger part of me, the part that communes with nature and the trees and the magic that lives all around us, knows that she's still here with me, knows that she lives inside of me, in my heart, in my mind, in every part of my being. She has given so much of herself that I may carry. And so sometimes I feel a little crazy because I hear her more now than I did when she was still alive. There's this weird contrast to grief. I've never felt her presence so strongly and her absence so deeply. That first week in her passing, sleep was hard to come by. And so I often found myself waking up at 5 a.m. on a lot of mornings. And I had these ongoing conversations in my head and my heart with her. I remember one morning, it was 5 a.m. and I was like, I guess this is our new witching hour. And I laughed to myself. And I felt her with me in that moment of small joy, small laughter. Because grief is funny that way. It creates a contrast of spaces for us to exist in, for us to feel in. It asks us to live with absence and presence at the very same time. And it leaves us with a lot of memories. So many memories flood me now. I think about her name and how she came to be Lela, because when I was little, I couldn't say abuela, and it would just come out as Lela. So there she earned her unique nickname, and everyone carried that. She was always known as Lela because of that connection I had with her. She was the first person to explore the idea of connection beyond this physical world with me. When I was little, we would play this game where one of us would think of a color and the other one had to guess it. Sometimes we did it with numbers too. She didn't need special toys or things. She was just herself. And in those little moments with her, she showed me that there were connections that couldn't be explained or rationalized. That maybe there's more to this life than we can actually see. She connected us mentally and spiritually and emotionally. And though her English was very limited, as was my Spanish, she always found ways to connect with me. And everyone around her, we called it our Spanglish. We had our own language that we developed to connect. She held hope in magic and possibility. And her excitement and belief in the magic and possibility of this world stays with me now. In fact, that is even louder now in the wake of her passing. It has propelled me forward and pushed me to continue to take steps, carrying her faith through my lineage. She reminds me not to fear the unknown, but to celebrate every beautiful memory she passes forward, every lesson, every teaching. She reminds me to live my life fully and unapologetically, to travel, to be my most authentic self, to cook with love and from love for my family, and to cultivate fullness and abundance in my physical and spiritual home through rituals of cleansing and releasing. One of the simplest rituals she taught me was placing a glass of water at my bedside every night. Now, you don't drink this water, you just fill the cup of water, place it at your bed. Once you wake up in the morning, you dump it out. And you just continue to repeat this practice or this ritual every night. She believed it helped to cleanse the space while making room for new opportunities and abundance to come in. And her faith in these rituals, in possibility, in something greater, helped fuel her strength to keep pushing forward for my mother and me through so many difficult moments over the years. And even now, I cling to my own faith because she showed me that my faith would be the thing that carries me, and that faith was my own responsibility and practice as well. Faith in her, faith in our connection, faith that she remains with me even when I can't see her. Means being present through massive shifts, presence and absence, peace and devastation, gratitude and longing. Spiritual belief doesn't eliminate human grief. They coexist. Both are teachers of contrast, but more than that, I think they're teachers of the tender, delicate nature of our beings. Grief teaches us to feel the enormity of loss, and belief reminds us that love is never truly lost. And maybe that is why grief has also changed the way I understand love between the people that are still here in my life with my children. And I saw that shift happening in my relationship with my mom. We grew closer in our grief. My mom had spent so many mornings and days and years caring for my grandmother, more than anyone. And now it was my turn to return some of that care back to her. And somewhere in all of this, I realized something about myself too. I think one of the biggest realizations I've had since my Lela's passing is that maybe my purpose isn't exactly what I understood it to be before. For a long time, I told myself that I wanted to help people. But when I really sat with that, I realized sometimes what I was actually trying to do was fix people. And maybe this lesson began for me the moment I sat on the floor next to my grandmother, the moment I held her hand, because there was nothing I could do to fix that moment. There was nothing I could fix there. Nothing I could change. I couldn't take death away. I couldn't take my own pain away. All I could do was sit beside her and love her. And I think that's what I want to offer other people too. I don't want to fix people. I want to sit beside them while they find their own way through things. Because grief is a shared human experience. And the way that I navigate it might not work for everyone. The things that bring me peace may not bring someone else peace, but that doesn't make my way any less important to share. It doesn't mean that there isn't value in saying, this is what I experienced. This is what helped me. And this is how I found meaning here. I realize now that I want to share what I learned along the way and how I alchemize my pain, not to tell someone how they should do it, but simply to offer another possibility for how their own pain might be alchemized, and to just show them what's possible, to show them that pain doesn't have to stay with us. We can feel it and we can release it when we're ready. I want to create connections that give people enough space to hear themselves, to figure out what works best for them. I want to be the soundboard, because we can't really do it for each other. We can't fix things, but we can learn from one another, and we can just hold space. We can remind each other that we're not alone. Even when pain pushes us towards solitude, even when pain makes us feel like we want to hermit and shrink away. And maybe that's part of what my Lela is still teaching me. Not how to escape grief, but how to live inside its contrasts. How to miss someone and still feel them. How to hurt and still experience gratitude. How to let something end without believing that everything it gave us ends with it. I want to share the words I spoke for my Lela at her funeral, not only as a way of honoring and celebrating her life, but as a way of introducing her to all of you. Because if I'm going to tell you about the grief of losing her, I think you should also get to know a little bit about the woman I was so lucky to love. This one is for you, Lela. My Lela was a force in this world. She was kind, loving, funny, and everything in between. She was a big believer in the magic this life has to offer. La ruda in your pocket for protection and luck. A million little palitos, which are tiny sticks for anyone who doesn't know. And she was also a dedicated Mega Millions and Powerball player. But more than that, she believed in living her fullest life. Even in difficult times, she persevered, resting on the foundation of her faith that all would work out, even when she could not see the way. She would say to me, "Lo que hay," which essentially means what is, or it is what it is. She lived life on her own terms, the kind of woman whose strength met you first, but once she knew you, she became your biggest cheerleader. She was always encouraging everyone around her and rooting them on, and she did it with the biggest smile and the cutest expressions. She was the kind of mother who picked up her life in Uruguay and moved across the earth to be with her only daughter here in the US. And she gave me that gift too, when she brought me to Spain, not only to meet family and see my roots, but to also spend some last moments with my Lelo, my grandfather. And as a kid, I didn't quite understand the value of what she'd given me. She showed me a spectrum of life and the contrast we would face. She reminded me that anything was possible. And I think I'm only beginning to understand how much of her lives within me. Her stubbornness, although I prefer to call mine determination. Her belief in magic. Her ability to find meaning in the little things. And her faith that even when we cannot see the way forward, somehow the way will reveal itself. And now somehow, she's teaching me about grief too. My human part wants to cry and scream at her absence. It wants my Lela here. But there is another part of me, the part that communes with trees and nature and magic and the spiritual world, that knows she's right here. Maybe that's the final lesson you're leaving with me, Lela. That two things can be true. I can ache because you're gone and still feel you beside me. I can stand here today saying goodbye to your body without believing that I am saying goodbye to you. Because love doesn't disappear, it changes form. So I'll find you in thunderstorms and sunshine, in ruda tucked into a pocket, in little palitos hidden away, in the lottery ticket bought because, well, you never know. I'll find you in my mother. I'll find you in my children. And I know I'll find you in me. So I won't say goodbye today, Lela. I'll say thank you. Thank you for showing me where I come from. Thank you for your strength, your faith, your magic, and all the memories whose importance I'm only beginning to understand. I love you, Lela. And while I will spend the rest of my life missing you in this form, I know I will also spend it discovering all of the places you remain. Thank you for listening and being present with me during this moment of grief. I love you. Until next time.